Do you hear that when she says that?
I do hear that.
Wow. Okay.
I know it is loud. This meeting is being sounds
They
very
want to,
official.
I know, I'm a little scared of what I'm going to say and what kind of trouble I might get into. I, um, I like the fact that Zoom has taken some precautions. Uh, they had a lot last year, so it's good that they're ebbing and flowing with the changes of the world, which is
Yeah.
a great way to live in business and in life. So, Leo, I'm really excited that you're here. Finally, I know we went through a lot to get this thing scheduled. Um, and the fact that we're here is, I'm really excited about it. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your story because we actually don't know each other. This is like our first official, real conversation. Is my audio coming through okay?
Oh yeah.
All right. And is it really loud?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, good. So I know you're a comedian, you're a coach, and what I'd love to know, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and about specifically how you've been able to take mental health issues or things like some of the sadness and depression and things that people experience in life. And I'm always really happy to hear about people who can take crappy stuff and laugh about it or find some comedy and humor in what sometimes feels like the tragedies of life. Um, and so I was really interested in having a conversation with you and getting to know a little bit more about you and how you think and what you're up to and why you're here and what you're doing with it. Uh,
I love it. That's a very big question.
I
Questions. It
know,
sounds like 12 questions.
I know.
Um, I'll try to cover it all. Um, to start off with, how have I been able to make something like mental health? My podcast is a suicide prevention podcast called Before You Kill Yourself. And the idea behind the title is that that window of us wanting to, of people wanting to end their lives, it's a very small window. They've timed it from anywhere from a few minutes to maybe 30 minutes tops, where that sandstorm, as I like to call it, comes through. And when we look at emotions in general, they have a time limit. Anger has a range of a half hour to like maybe a couple hours. Joy has a range. Happiness, sadness, they all have time limits on it. Some are longer than others. Um, so the idea about before you kill yourself, of like, listen, I know right now you feel like killing yourself, but this too shall pass. Um, you know, go go have a coffee, call a friend, um, you know, journal, send off an email, feed the baby. And it sounds trivial, it sounds dismissive, like, oh yeah, like that's gonna save my life. But what validated that title for the podcast was, I was on a plane talking to a friend about starting a suicide prevention podcast, and this lady in the front of me, in the front of us, jumped up and she was like, "You better be careful what you're talking about because you don't know who's been through what, and that's a very sensitive subject." And then she proceeds, and remember, we're on a plane. She proceeds to tell me that she was in a bathroom with a gun to her head, ready to pull the trigger, and she heard her baby crying.
Mm.
And she was like, "Oh, I got to feed the baby." And that's what saved her life, is her baby crying. And so when I say, hey, before you kill yourself, go feed the baby, go do some laundry, go for a walk, it's like there's so many things that in that window, when we have that tunnel vision, that we forget about the rest of the life that we actually enjoy or need to tend to, or are looking forward to. Um, don't forget what's anchoring you here. Don't forget your purpose, your mission. And we know that scientifically, people who are struggling with depression or struggling with emotional regulation, that they have a we have a poor memory. We have a very poor memory. We often are able to remember all the great things that have happened in our life, or all the horrible things that have happened, but we forget all the wonderful things that have
Yeah.
happened, all the peaceful things. We remember, all of the negative comments and the mean looks and the angry statements, but we forget about the people who opened the door for us, or the person that allowed us to go ahead of them when we were driving, or the person who said good morning, or all the help that we've had along the way. So these are daily reminders, and that's why practicing daily gratitude is so important, because on a daily basis we're forgetting all the things that have been important to us and have hold meaning for us, and that we value, and all the ways that other people have showed love and care for us. And my personal story with that is, when I was 9 years old, I told my mom when I turned 40 I was going to end my life. And at the time, at 9, you don't have much insight. You don't know why you say these things to your mom. Um, but looking back, I realized I had a very clear understanding uh, what a financial burden, excuse me, I was to my mom. My mom, and I always felt like if my mom didn't have me or my sister, she wouldn't have to work 2 jobs and come home and
Mm.
have to unbutton her pants and sit on the couch and be exhausted, not knowing that that was my mom's life life's purpose. It wasn't until a couple years ago. I'm 45 now, in case any of you were worrying. Um, that a few years ago, I actually asked my mom, I go, what did you want? What did you want to do with your life? What did you want to be? Clearly, you didn't want to just go to a day job and come home to us, right? And she was like, all I want to do is have kids and take care of them. She said, I've always
Mm.
loved taking care of children and all people. So I bring it up to say that this whole time I had this script running in my mind, this background noise of how much of a burden myself and my sister were to my mom, and oh my god, I can't believe she has to do all this work and take care of us and all that. And the whole time she's humming along, she's loving it. We're giving her a reason to get out of bed, we're giving her a reason to go to work, we're giving her life. um, and because I did not have a conversation with my mom, I didn't find out until later.
Mm.
I never expressed my worries, I never expressed my anxieties. I was at a young age, was like, I don't want to be a burden. So I spent so much of my life not just trying not to be a burden with my mom, but be a burden in any relationship. When I look back, I look at how many times I've broken up because I was like, I feel like a burden, like they had to take care of me too much, or any relationship, friendship, relationship, I would try to unburden myself, and sometimes that meant isolating myself, or ostracizing others, or what have you. So we have to encourage conversation and communication, um, even if it may seem hurtful or uncomfortable, because it's in that discomfort where we get to the truth, and that's where we get to the connection, and that's how we start to feel safer in sharing with each other, instead of going to food, drugs, alcohol, or even suicide.
Abs-
I don't know if I answered all your questions, Basquiat, but there's so much more I
Lisan.
can say.
So
Lisan.
Lisan
All right. How do you say
and
your last name?
Basquiat.
Oh, Basquiat. Oh, with no T.
Yeah. So it's
Okay,
like Baskeea is how
got you.
you would pronounce it. Yeah.
Okay.
So Haitian and Puerto Rican, if that was going to be a question.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna ask because I was like,
It's a
she could ask
Haitian
that.
last name.
Okay.
So what I'm smiling about is I asked you like a whole lot of questions and you came back with a whole lot of answer and some really juicy stuff to talk about, and um, I love this idea of reconnecting to your life, because a lot of times when we're feeling crappy and when we're stuck in that emotion, in our emotions, which, sometimes are the biggest thing that we think about, but they're really the smallest amount of time. I love that you broke that down into, this feeling that you have is not everything about your life, it's a part of your life. And, when you have those negative emotions, it's really important to find a way to release those, and one of those ways is to reconnect to your life, to what's really happening in your life, not just what's kind of flying around in your head. And I also loved the fact that you brought up how important it is to have gratitude and to really pay attention to what's happening into your life. I find that people embrace all the bad shit that happens. Like, oh, this happened. I had a horrible relationship, or I had an argument with this person, or this person looked at me funny as I got off the bus this morning, and people embrace those horrible things. And then when something wonderful comes our way, if we're not thinking clearly and if we're not prioritizing appropriately, we can choose to not embrace those wonderful things. So I think it's really important to start the practice of embracing the wonderful things that happen, that smile that you get, from a stranger that passes you by, that, thing that $20 that you found in your pocket that you didn't know was there, whatever the things are, and during the course of your day. So I really love that you're talking about that, because it's really important. And those are the things that help us to remember that we're alive and that we're here and that we have purpose and that there's a reason, for us to be here. So I'm really glad you talked about those things. You said like a
Um,
hundred other things. I'm trying to remember, but let's
well,
just
I'm
talk.
glad you broke down you broke down two very important things. One is when we talk about a part of you and a part of us, in that when we think about our emotions and how we feel and who we are, to remember that it's a part of us, right? So if you think about your body, a part of your body is flesh, a part of it is a bone, a part of it is blood, a part of it is water, parts of it. So when we think about anger and emotion and sadness and excitement, and it's a part of me is excited, and a part of me is also a bit anxious, and a part of me is grieving. Like, we can hold multiple emotions at the same time. And that's the thing that we don't learn at a young age. We usually, when I grew up, there was only two emotions: pissed or cool, right? Like, there
Me
was
too.
no nuance, there
Yeah.
was no gray area, right? And you were either normal or crazy. There wasn't depression. There wasn't melancholy. Nobody used these words. You weren't in despair. What is that? What is that? Either you're crazy or you're cool. So, but we learn that things are layered. So I can be both grieving over a loss, and I can be feel both joy over the life that was led, over the people who are have come together as a result of the loss. Anything about the amount of family members that show up to the funeral and show support, and people would never talk to you again or you'd never see again. There's going to be some joy and some excitement and maybe some anticipation, along with some sadness and some grief and worry. And to know that I can feel all these things, to say I love you. Yes, I love you, but I'm also terrified, or I'm also
Mm.
concerned. I hate you, but I also want the best for you. Like, we can have so many emotions at once. So when we even think about suicide, to say it's not even all ourselves that we want to kill. Typically, it's a part of ourselves that we're trying to kill. It's maybe the addictive self that we're trying to kill, the part of ourselves that is resorting to childish things, not childlike but childish things, or the part of us ourselves that you know are that are just socially awkward. Maybe we're trying to kill that part of ourselves, or what have you. So to tap into, like, what is the part that I want to shed? What is the part that I want to purge, and tap into that? And then what are the parts that I want to keep? Coco Chanel wanted to end her life, but it wasn't that she wanted to end her life. Is that she wanted revenge. She hated her aunt so much. She wanted them to feel pain and scorn and anger. So it's not that she wanted to die. She just wanted them to feel something. And at the bottom of that, she just wanted them to stop. She just wanted to be loved and accepted. And she's like, if I can't be loved and accepted, then I want pain and scorn. We see this in movies all the time where, especially like superhero movies where there's the villain typically started out trying to be the good guy, trying to do the right thing, and
Yeah.
then was met with adversary and bullying and scorn and rejection. And then it was like, why even try to do the right thing? And then they become a villain, and you can see them struggling with being a villain because they'll destroy things, and you'll see them crying and sobbing like nobody listened to me when I was trying to be nice. I have to destroy things. Thanos is kind of an example of that.
Hmm.
So Hitler is an example of that. Not to bring that up, you might want to edit this part out, but he was a guy he had a background in arts and creativity and painting, and he was trying to get accepted into these different art schools, and he got rejected, and he was so infuriated, so enraged by the rejection, and there's probably things going on at home that you went a different direction. So we at the end of the day, we're all looking for acceptance, for love, for appreciation, and we'll get it any way that we can, whether that means that we bring harm to ourselves or bring harm to others, or we bring joy to the world and we bring joy to ourselves and joy to others. But we're all looking for some form of connection. And then you talked
Absolutely.
about,
Really
okay,
quick.
go ahead.
So, because I'm going to have him edit out that little piece, can you
Okay,
say, just think about that person that?
got you. Just think about the person that, okay,
That's it.
got you.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
got you.
Tyler, I want you to take that and replace it or put it over whatever he said about Hitler. Okay. Whatever he said about Hitler, let's just overwrite that one.
Okay,
Get rid of that. Okay.
um, go ahead.
Okay. Um, I know that I interrupted you. So,
No, go ahead.
okay. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about is I completely lost my train of thought because I put my head into editing mode. Um,
So there's another part. You said embrace part of the wonderful things, you know, right? And so it is so important not to just show gratitude. Um, One of the things, a lot of people struggle with sleeping at night. They wake up between 1 and 3, and they're anxious. Maybe they have thoughts that are running through their mind. Sometimes they wake up and they don't even know why they've woken up. And a lot of times we'll go to our cell phone, we'll go to Netflix, we'll go to the fridge as a way of trying to soothe ourselves and get ourselves back to sleep. But another antidote to that is one, to step outside, take in some fresh air, get some fractals on your face. It seems like it would be counterintuitive because it's like you want to go to sleep and stepping outside and getting fresh air on your face might wake you up, but it's soothing because
mhm.
it's kind of like nature in the world giving you a hug. And it's so quiet at that hour, right? In most neighborhoods, I understand some people live in neighborhoods where maybe
I'm
stepping
looking at you
outside.
like,
Yeah,
all right, so now
yeah. Yeah,
Leo and
yeah. So
Lisane are telling people
yeah.
to go outside at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I
the
grew up in the Section 8
disclaimer
building. I
is,
understand. Yeah. Maybe stick your head out the window,
yeah, the opinion of my guest is just an
Yes.
opinion, not an
Um,
instruction.
And so, but the other thing that we can do is to write letters of appreciation to
Yeah.
people who have had a positive, healthy influence in our lives, whether that's a teacher, a friend, a stranger. And you don't have to have their address, you don't have to know where they live. Just writing the letter is therapeutic and soothing enough for you. And you put that in an envelope and then you mail it, or you don't mail it. You don't have to put a stamp on it, but there's just something about thinking about other people that's therapeutic, because a lot of times when we feel emotionally unregulated, that we're just thinking about ourselves and our life and our past and our future, and that can be overwhelming. So by writing letters of appreciation is a way of thinking about others, and it's a way of gratitude, and it's also a reminder for your just trying to forget all the wonderful things in your all the people who have had a positive impact on your life.
Yeah, I think it's also important to deal with the things, we talked about parts, and we talked about the fact that we are living in these very complex, emotional ecosystems, and where we are feeling ourselves fractionalized. Is that the right word? Fractalized? Where we feel ourselves in parts, it's really important to try to bring that together, because sometimes it's indicative of conflict. And enmeshed in that conflict is the energy of those negative emotions. So, it's really important to release those things, to get them out, to write those letters, to stick your head out the window or go on your balcony or take a walk if that's available to you, whatever that is. Do all of that and understand the difference between a momentary mood where maybe you just feel crappy for 15 or 20 minutes, or you're reacting to an experience that's happened in your life, and something that's happening that just doesn't want to go away, an emotion that continues to pop up within a situation where the energy of that isn't going away, because that's really what we're talking about here. It's energy, right? It's the energy that we have toward a circumstance in our life, in a relationship, or our relationship with work, or whatever the things are that are happening. So it's really important to get in there and understand what's going on, so that you can both release the immediate energy of it and also get rid of it, if that's what needs to happen, or bring it to resolution, take it out of a part, bring yourself whole around those different circumstances.
I really love how you things bring yourself whole around different circumstances.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful that when we talk about release. Um, I used to go to movies as a way of release. And I found that I didn't feel better after going to the movies, but I did feel better after going for a walk. I
Hmm.
feel calmer after getting a massage. I know that um, the issues rest in our tissues, in our body, whatever past traumas that we've had or current traumas that we're going through. Store it, whether it's in our traps or in our
Hmm.
stomach or in our hands, or headaches, back, things like that. So getting some type of body work, whether it's getting a foam roller and foam rolling your body, or
Hmm.
acupressure or acupuncture or massage, or being in a sauna, kind of that sweating things out, getting the heart rate up and
Hmm.
pushing the toxins, just anything that's going to help you release. Exercise is a way of doing that. Group exercise is better. Group exercise outdoors is the best.
Hmm.
There's just so many ways for us to release the issues stored in our tissues. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you
And
highlighting that.
yeah, and that's everything I mean, if you look out at nature, that's what volcanoes are about. That's what, the downpour of rain is about. It's like things fill up and they have to go somewhere. And we are the only ones trying to like find a way to get around that truth. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Um, yeah. So I like that. So you also talked about um your the story that you, or the narrative that you had going about being a burden, and that was something that you brought into different relationships that you've had. And what popped up for me is something that a lot of us do, which is think for other people, and I'm going to stop for a second. Your Wi-Fi is doing a weird thing. Are you seeing the same thing,
It's saying unstable connection.
where it's
It's
kind of
yeah,
coming in
in
and
and
out?
out, but it hasn't. But your sound hasn't come in and out. So
Yours has a
yeah.
little bit. Yours
Oh,
has
it
a little
has.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've been
I don't know how to.
I mean, if you're on your Wi-Fi and you're on it, it's okay. I just wanted to see if
Yeah,
there's
it's funny
anything.
because on Zoom it's shaky, but my bars are all full. It's not.
Okay. All right. I mean, it wasn't enough that anything was missed, but there may be a little
Mhm.
bit of choppiness at different points
Okay.
during the thing.
Yeah, I'm so used to that now. I always tell them, like, my listeners, I'm just like, listen, it's Wi-Fi. We're not live right now.
Wi-Fi, it's all
It's
good. It's
not
all
it's
good.
not IRL anymore.
Yeah.
But well, I'm sorry. Was I saying something? Were you saying something?
I was. So my what I was thinking about is this idea of thinking for other people. And and thank you for sharing that that was something that you were doing. Um because a lot of us do that, where we don't want to be a burden on other people. And so therefore we kind of create this story in our heads of for other people, how they see us, what they want to do for us, how they love us. And in doing that, we actually take away their opportunity and ability to show us love, or their opportunity and ability to support us through really difficult situations. And I'll say, I have been that person where I am a number one there for other people. And then when I was going through something, I made this huge, stupid assumption that not calling myself stupid even, but it was just really, it was silly, where I would assume that other people didn't want to support me, or that they didn't have time, or that I was going to be a burden on them if I were to bring my pain to them or my situation. And trying that out, and it wasn't easy at first. It took like, okay, I'm going to try it with this one person. It was a game changer for me in allowing other people the gift of being able to support me as I've supported them. So sometimes we're doing that because we don't want to, hurt another person, or we don't want to burden them, but in fact, it's cutting off the ability for them to love us. And that's the thing that we all want, is to be loved and accepted and, cared for, and to know that we're not completely alone, and to know that when we are in that crappy place, that there are people that we can go to, um, who are happy to do for us, happy to see us.
How did you approach them? How did you? I think for a lot of people, asking for help is such a challenge.
Yeah,
How did you open up that conversation?
that is a great question, Leo. What I would say is I'm really uncomfortable to ask, and I feel like shit, and I'm sad, and I told the truth. And I took the truth out of the narrative in my own head, and I brought it into real life. It's like the woman hearing her baby. I connected to my real life. So instead of me saying, oh, blank person doesn't want to hear from me, they have their own problems, I went to the person to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on, and gave them the opportunity to speak their truth back to me. And without fail, every single person was like, girl, thank you. It's about time. Because we know you're going through something. Let us help you, or this, or what do you need? Or let's go take a walk on the beach, or I live in San Diego. Or, something. There was always a hand that was given. So it was really telling the truth about what I was feeling.
And they knew. It sounds like they were aware that you were going through something. They were so
Yeah.
grateful that now they can label it. They're like, oh my, like, because they could feel like they're going crazy. Like, I feel like she's going through something, but she's not saying anything. Am I crazy? Do
Yeah.
I not know my friend?
Or how we know our friends, we know our people. Or it's like, oh, that's just Lisane. Okay, Lisane, we know that you just worked 97 hours this week, and you're gonna, I don't know, whatever, you need some help with something, and you're saying, that's okay, I got it, I'll figure it out. That's just her. We all, a lot of us do that. So it was like I took that into, what, I'm not gonna be that Lisane. I'm going to be the Lisan who says, you know what? I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I have a lot going on, and I'm overwhelmed, and I need some help. And I don't even know what to ask you for, And the responses that I got were things like, girl, yes, how can I help you? I'll be there. Or let's meet here. Or I'm just going to come by and give you a hug. Or what do you need? How can I best help you and support you? So I think I'm really glad that you brought that conversation up, because I think that a lot of folks are feeling the same way, like they're a burden, or like they don't, a lot of us, like, we live in our heads, and our heads are an interesting place to be. It's an interesting place to live because there's no one in there but you. Like, you can think it, you can think there's a lot going on, but it's just us in there bouncing around like a pinball machine sometimes.
I would assume too, because I don't want to live in my head, that a part of the challenge of asking for help, and this has been part of my challenge for asking for help, is, I'm 6'1.5", and so I've always had this voice. I never went through the awkward, like, "Hey guys, can I play?" Like, I never had the Mickey Mouse voice.
We'd accept you
I've had
anyway, Leo.
I've had a goatee since I was in sixth grade. I was often mistaken for my mom's husband. So where there's this adultification of young, especially black people, black women, black men. I don't want to make this a racial thing, but there's this adultification of people when they look a certain way or have a certain color, that the rest of the world responds to them as if they're good, like they're a strong black person, they're a strong woman or strong man, and so you start trying to live up and meet that expectation, and you feel like a part of that is not unburdening yourself or being vulnerable to others because you're the strong black person. So that means the people around me are not that strong. So I can't show any weakness. Was that part of your script at all or no?
That was absolutely a part of my script in this, the saying, never let them see you sweat.
Mm.
I think that is probably one of the worst things that this culture, like, I don't know who said that. There has to be more to that story. I am Haitian and Puerto Rican, so I have a Caribbean background. I grew up in Brooklyn, and there is a badge of honor, and I think this is within our society, throughout our society, no matter what color you are, what skin tone you are, but it's really prevalent in the Black community. And that is, don't let people know, like, hide that, show your successes and hide the journey. And I think that is well meaning. I know in my own family it was well meaning, where it was like, just handle your stuff, and don't show your emotion because it weakens you. That's what I grew up believing, that the show of emotion or the show of needing help meant, equated to being weak. And I get it. I understand the psychology behind it and the intention behind it. And it's not, it shouldn't be that one trick pony solution to every single thing happening in your life. There are times where you just, put on your your game face, you do the thing you have to do. And as a human being, there has to be a space in your life to be able to unload and to release and to unpack the things that are happening, because adulting is, you know, it's a job. There's a lot happening, you know.
This is, even this morning, I woke up, me and my girl woke up, and her name's Michelle. And I had the thought that, and she rolls over to cuddle with me. And I'm thinking, as we're laying there, I need to get up so that she knows that I'm not lazy,
Mm,
right? Like there was something, like I'm like, it's Monday, it's not Saturday, it's not Sunday, even though we had time. It wasn't, I didn't have meetings at that time, but there's a part of me that's like, I need to get up and out of bed before her so
yeah.
that she knows that, I wake up and I take care of business and I'm on top of things. And I just remember laying there like, how long can I lay here before it's not considered lazy and before I just want to stay in bed for the rest of the day? And
Yeah.
I got this clock running in my head. And I was like, and but I also remember talking about, multiple emotions, also feeling like how sad this is that I can't lay here and hold my girl who I'm working for, not working for, but
Mhm.
it's like it's part of the motivation, right? To you don't just want to do things for yourself, but you want to do things to share with others. But I was like, God, like, am I living my life in alignment with my values or in a right way? Like, or is this just part of the journey, as you mentioned? So, it's that idea of putting on that facade of, I got to get up and I got to be busy. I always got to be doing something. Um, Even though I am, just being is enough. We say
Yeah.
that, but inside there's the duck feet, paddling underneath.
Yeah, until you get rid of it,
Hmm.
because it's like it's that thought about being a burden to other people. If we don't address it, it becomes a narrative and a record that we play back to ourselves,
Hmm.
that we're a burden, that we're a burden to our own lives, and it's this kind of tricky thing. And I love that you mentioned being in alignment with values because, or for me, being clear about my values is the way that I'm able to accomplish the things that I'm able to accomplish in my life, and the way that I'm able to keep myself on track when my emotions start coming up really strong, because I know what I'm doing and I know why I'm doing it. And if you know what your path is, and if you have clarity about your path, then you understand that these other things that you do, like cuddling with your woman, or, me deciding that I'm going to have a weekend where I'm completely off the grid and not doing any of the stuff, I'll wait until Monday, even though I know the emails are dinging and people are texting. Um, when you're clear about your values, then you can do that because you know that you're on the track. You know what your track is, and you understand that you're setting yourself up for success by giving yourself some of what you need, which is to live in harmony with the rest of your life, which is to enjoy the person that you're working for, you know, or the people that you're working for, the community that you're working for. Um, you can't, that's kind of part of that not wanting, I don't know how, but it's kind of like not when I'm feeling, it's a way of dehumanizing myself almost. When I'm like, oh, I'm really tired, but I don't want to relax because that means that I'm, you know, failing, or I'm not taking my life seriously, or I'm not taking this very important job of blah seriously. It's crap, you know?
I like that idea of dehumanizing yourself. It really is an objectification of ourselves to think that
Yeah,
our value is only linked to these external things versus our
absolutely.
internal character.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you distill your values? I think for a lot of people, finding their purpose, their meaning, what they're aligned with, how did you distill that?
Another great question. It's thinking about in a specific area of your life, which is probably the easiest way to do it. Finding an area of your life and then sitting down and thinking about what's important to you about that area of your life. That will give you a good indication of what your values are. And also thinking about, um, for me, it's thinking about a time where I was really happy and doing well in a particular area of my life. So let's say that I'm going to do it, I'm going to elicit my values around my career, for example. I would start thinking about the things that are important to me about career. And if I could not think of anything in that moment, I would start to think about maybe the best job that I had or the best experience that I had. Um, if I was doing it as a coach, it would be like the best coaching relationship that I had or the best corporate role that I had. And just kind of come up with keywords and just get them out, release them, put them out. And for me, I like to have fun. I like a sense of accomplishment. I like things that are meaningful. I like to have authentic conversations. Um, Spirituality is the top for everything for me. Everything is connected to my spirituality, and which means my connection to everything, all of us, all the things. And so you list those things out, and then you prioritize them. And if you do that, what you'll find is that the areas in your life where you are struggling, or where your relationships are um, at odds, or where you find yourself having the same arguments over and over and over again, it's probably because there's something that's happened that's banging up against one of your values. And so it's a great roadmap to use in helping other people to be set up for success in their interactions with you. I had a slight, not falling out, but a disagreement with someone recently. And I couldn't figure out, like, why am I so hot about this thing? Like, why am I feeling so, like, and I'm kind of fiery. I'm a fiery person. And it's the Puerto Rican and the Haitian. It's like, it's a lot happening in here. And I'm from Brooklyn. It's like a whole thing. Um, and so I was really fiery. But beyond that, I was like, well, what is happening? And then I went back and I was like, oh, for me, it was one of my values I felt were banged up against. And it was the value of intimacy in relationship, and not necessarily sexual intimacy, but the intimacy of conversation. And I felt like I was hitting a wall with this person. So I was not happy about it and disturbed about it. Now, if I didn't know this about myself, and if I hadn't taken the time to actually sit down and contemplate who I am in that particular area of life, then I would have been going back and forth with this person forever. But now I was like, oh, listen, this is the deal. This is what's going on. Intimacy is one of my values. So when this thing happened, I process it this way, because for me, it means that I'm not in intimacy in a relationship, and I don't want that. And so it gives the opportunity for there to be resolution so that people can process, resolve, and move forward. So it's really understanding what your values are and applying them to the different areas of your life is a game changer.
You're absolutely right. I had a disagreement with a friend, and I did the same thing. I was like, why was there such a clash of the titans? And I look back and I go, oh, I didn't feel heard. I didn't need them to agree. I don't need you
Right.
to agree, but I was like, but I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel like you understood what I was saying. And you're right. As soon as I recognized that, and I recognized what it what it is that I said that may have been miscommunicated, or what it is that they said that may have triggered me to not feeling heard, it made for such a much uh, richer conversation afterwards, where we were able to have an intimate conversation and connect and move forward. It's it's that idea of like leading with emotions. Like, how did I feel? And then people usually respond in kindness versus you this, you that. It's like, here's what I was feeling.
Mhm.
And then you see them soften a little bit, and now you're able to have an intimate conversation, as you said.
Yeah. That's personal accountability, which
Mm.
is so important in relationship. It's like we get into relationships, or we get into, the rink with people, and it becomes a battle to call another person out on all the stuff that they did. And when you do that, you're literally leaving yourself to be over in that person's lane to say, well, you had on a black shirt and you had on headphones and blah, blah, blah. And which is very different than saying, I I allowed you to wear a black shirt. I mean, this is a crazy, foolish little example, but it's like, I, you wanted something and I really didn't want to give it to you. And what I chose to do was to take it and break my Twinkie in half and give you half of it. But that's not really what I wanted to do. So that takes the steam out of that thing that we do to like blame other people for the ways that we feel, and puts our accountability on ourselves to be honest and authentic and real about what we're feeling and about what we want and who we are. Trust for me, big one. The day that I feel like I can't trust is like, you know, and done. And I have to deal with that though with people, right? Like, so it's so much easier to say, I'm feeling like like, not that like the big, I don't trust you, but I felt kind of a loss of trust because of whatever reason. That invites a different kind of a conversation than a fight with you, a tomato fight about whether or not I trust you.
I just had this conversation with my masseuse yesterday, and he was talking about his wife of 25 years, and it was a toxic relationship, and he finally divorced. And I said, "What took you so long?" And he said, he's like, "Wow, my daughter asked me the same question. What took me so long? It was so toxic." And she had some PTSD, and she was acting out a lot. And he said, I didn't divorce her because of what she did. I could take all the emotional outbursts, I could take the anger, the yelling, even some physical abuse was involved on her part. And he said, it's not what she did, it's what she hid.
Mm-hmm.
It's the things that I found out. She had another bank account, and she was doing this to the children, and I didn't had no idea she was doing this. And it goes back to what you're saying, trust. Like, he's like, I can love her through all her emotional outbursts, and she can say whatever she wants to say, and I can take this abuse. But if you're hiding something from me, if I feel betrayed, I
Mm-hmm.
can't forgive betrayal, right? In so many books that I'm reading now on couples therapy, um, but it's like we're fed that love is the most important thing. Yes, and that's wonderful and it's romantic and it sells movies, but it's betrayal that it will end a relationship. I've told my friends, like, people don't usually divorce because of infidelity. They divorce because they found out that you were being
Deceitful.
traitorous,
Mm-hmm.
deceitful. Yeah, absolutely. So it's fascinating that you bring that up. Trust and friendship, they're the glue that holds any type of relationship together. And not only a relationship with ourselves, with other people, but with the government, with the country, with the
Absolutely.
world. When you see people, I don't want to get political, but trust is the foundation of behaviors, and it motivates a lot of our behaviors, whether we
Yeah.
have trust or lack it.
I will also say that trust is important if it's important. So,
Mm,
for example, there are some people who maybe trust isn't in their top 10 of their
mm,
values,
mm,
right? So you could be in a situation with that person where it doesn't matter as much to them, but you have to know,
mm.
you have to know what it is that other person, how that other person is experiencing or seeing the thing that's going on. And I agree with you. Trust is everything. It's everything, and for some people, it's a little lower than it is for others, and if you know that trust is important to you, I know trust is like way up there for me. If you know it's important to you, there's a roadmap. You are instantly setting people up for success around you because they know. And then you know how you feel and why you feel that way. And then we make our decisions accordingly, which is very different than walking away. For me, some of the relationships that I've walked away from where I'm just like, out of here, you suck. It's different to be like, you know what? I couldn't trust you.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you're bad. Like you're good,
Mhm.
you know? But for me, I can't have that going on within me, you know?
It's a
It's
distraction. It takes up
it,
so much emotional space to have to worry about where you are, who you're with, what you're doing.
yeah. Yeah, like who has time for that? Some people do, but it's, so it kind of helps to clarify some of these things that we bang into each other about and argue and fuss about.
I like to hear your Brooklyn accent come out when you
Do you
like,
hear it?
yo, you suck. Like what? I can't even do the Brooklyn accent, but I was like,
Well, you're
oh,
from
there it
Chicago.
is.
You're from Chicago. I know you. I don't know what it is exactly, but there's a Chicago swag as well. So I do have a couple of quick questions for you. Um, why um why the focus on suicide, or why the focus on suicide prevention?
Great question. Because I do have other struggles in my life. But I played college football, Division I, Ball State. I wanted to go pro, and I had some injuries, and plus I just didn't have the skill level that I needed to go pro. I'm gonna blame it on the.
Accountability.
I'm gonna blame it on a torn meniscus, but really I sucked. I sucked.
Accountability. I love
Yeah.
it.
So, but there was this guy Rashawn Salam who played for the Chicago Bears, and Heisman Trophy winner coming out of Colorado, which is the highest trophy you can get as a college football player. It goes to the top um, football player coming out of college for football. And he goes to Chicago Bears, which I'm from Chicago. That's my favorite team. It's a great team. The city loved him. But he ran into a few injuries early on and never quite lived up to the hype that was expected of him. And I think after maybe 3 to 5 years, retired. And at the age of, I think, 30, he ended his life. And it baffled me because he was just from what I saw in the media loved him, the people loved him. He had a good enough career. It's like, yeah, professional football didn't take him to the heights that he saw in his college career, but just to even go pro and then make the team and be drafted, like those are all wins in my box. And years later, I ran into a friend of his at the gym. I didn't even know he was a friend. We just started talking about football, and we talked about Rashawn Salam, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my boy, man." He was like, "That was a tragedy." I go, "You know him?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Why did he end his life?" And he said, without hesitation, he didn't know how to take care of himself,
Mm,
and it broke my heart, right? Um, because he's 30 years old, educated. He has a bachelor's in Chicago. He has resources. He has financial resources. He has social resources, human resources, people who care about him and love him. And it wasn't enough for him.
mm,
There was a piece that was missing. There was a part that wasn't there. Um, and I go, if this guy struggled with taking care of himself, and I have a master's in counseling psychology, um, and I was struggling at the time to take care of myself. I was like, so how many people out there who have fewer resources, born in worse circumstances, are struggling?
mhm,
Like fundamentally, that's what we're talking about: is how do you take care of you, not what does women's health or men's health or the magazine say, the 10 ways to whatever. It's like you specifically, like when we talk about values, like what do you value?
mm.
What's your sleep cycle? What lights you up? When do you
Yep.
feel connected? What's the what eating right for your blood type? Like what foods are good for your gut health, and all these different things. What climate is best? How do you take care of yourself? And I was like, I have to. I want to go on this journey for myself, and I also want to bring others along. And I don't think you ever really get the answer to how to take care of yourself. I mean, but you can hone in, you
Mhm.
can you can get close to it. You never quite get it perfect because life is dynamic. I mean, the pandemic and the quarantine was what a curveball. You found out some things about yourself you probably didn't know. Um, and so I forget what the question was, but I really wanted to explore the question of how to take care of yourself.
That is the question, right? That's the question that's next to, who am I and how do I take care of myself? Because we are this story, we're this, you know, this being that is the child of these other earthly beings that has, all these experiences and all these things that get fed to us. And then we move into adulthood, and it's so important to understand that there's a question to be asked. You have to know that there's a question to be asked, that you do, you can ask that question of how you take care of yourself and hone in on that, like you're doing, and pay attention to that and understand who you are and what you need. And you do that. Well, I'll ask you before I, give you my ideas, but how do you take care of yourself? What are you doing to take care of yourself?
I love to write. I feel like it's been such a blessing to be gifted um, the pen and paper,
Hmm.
be able to sit down and just vomit out whatever's up there in my head. Um, and in that process of just free writing and asking myself questions, what's bothering me? When did I feel connected? Did I do my best today to engage? Did I do, what made me laugh today? What am I looking forward to? Part of taking care of myself is really asking myself more effective questions. Instead of why did this happen to me? That it kind of plays the victim card, where, as you mentioned, taking personal responsibility. Did I do my best today? Not did I do my best a year ago or a week ago or just today.
Yeah.
Today is enough. There's so much
Yeah.
that can be done, and there's almost so much that can be undone
Yeah.
in a day. So taking that time on a daily basis to reflect, even if it's for a minute or 5 minutes or whatever time you have. I get a massage once a week. I get acupuncture. I have a therapist. I have a couples therapist. I attend group meetings for sugar and carbs. Um, so I give myself permission. Part of me taking care of myself is giving myself permission to be helped, to let others help me, to let others influence me,
Mhm.
instead of feeling like I have to have all the answers and that I have to show up 100%. You know, the truth is, I'm always showing up 100%, but what my 100% looks like is going to be different from moment to moment. If I slept, 9 hours last night, 100% is going to look different than if I slept 3 hours. But I'm giving you 100% of what I have with the 3 hours of sleep that I have, or the jet lag, or what have you. So we're always giving 100%, but it's about recognizing how we show up for ourselves and also learning compassion. That's been a huge part of taking care of myself, because a lot of times we start down a downward spiral. For me, it's food. My father drank a little bit, and typically you find that the children of parents who drank have like kind of a sugar addiction. So I sugar is my comfort thing. And so I'll start with a couple cookies, and then I go, oh, I had a couple, I might as well have the whole bag. If I had a bag of cookies, I might as well have a pint of ice cream. Like, the logic doesn't even make sense. If somebody punches you, you don't go, well, I might as well get into a brawl. Like, we're not
Yeah.
trying to up everything else, but with food we do that. So um, I have compassion. I'm learning how to have compassion for myself and saying, you know what, Leo? Of course you want to have cookies because, one, you're dehydrated, you haven't drank enough water. We know that water triggers carb cravings. And two,
Mhm.
you didn't sleep well last night. And three, you had, five back-to-back meetings. So you're probably a little stressed. You probably just want some hands on the chest, or you need to foam roll or go for a walk or take a nap or talk to a friend. And so knowing how to click through what could potentially be contributing to my emotional state, right? So that I can demystify my emotions versus feeling overwhelmed or at effect to whatever comes up for me. I think those
Yes.
have been the biggest ways to take care of myself.
I love that. It's all about giving yourself some room in your own life. Not expecting yourself to just be doing all the things without you wouldn't do we if we treated ourselves the way that we treat our cars, we would be, on a good path. Your car runs out of gas, it's done. I have never stood over my car to demand that it continues to drive, with no
Mhm.
gas in it because it doesn't make sense and it's not possible. So I love that you're setting a that you're a role model for taking care of yourself and for giving yourself some grace and some empathy and compassion, because it's important. It's
I think
important.
about coffee, right? When you go to a Starbucks or any coffee place, the cup is they give you a 16-ounce cup or 24-ounce cup, whatever size the cup is. You don't want them to fill that cup all the way to the top because you're going to spill it,
Yeah.
right? You want to leave a little space. So to even ask that you give 100% for you to fill your cup up to the top with demands and scheduling and all these things in our life is ridiculous because something's going to spill, something's going to fall onto the floor. You're
Hmm.
going to forget a meeting. You're going to forget to pick up your kids from school, or
Yeah,
you're going to forget to eat breakfast. Something's going to get spilled. So leave your room some space so that we don't make a mess.
absolutely. Or drop things. Like me, I always know when I'm doing too much because like I'll be doing something and it'll fall, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just like doing too much. There's too much happening here. Like, let's bring it in for a minute. So I love that you get the massage because I also get a weekly massage and the acupuncture and all those beautiful things. And we are made up of, we're spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical beings. And it's really important to pay attention to what's happening for ourselves in those different aspects of ourselves, caring for ourselves physically, because sometimes there's really nothing going on. It's just that I'm sleepy. I haven't had enough sleep, easily fixed, or my brain is just taking in too much information and I need to get out and take a walk and get some air and kind of let things move around a little bit, another easy fix. So I love what you're up to, Leo, and I love the message and I love the focus and commitment to taking care of yourself and to asking really great questions and finding a way to answer those questions for yourself, make you a better boyfriend, a better man, a better, you know, everything that you're up to. So good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
What can our listeners, where can they find you? What's happening for you right now?
If you check out my website, leoflowers.com, it links to my website, Before You Kill Yourself. Links to my YouTube channel. I upload the audio, sometimes video from the podcast. Also have my comedy clips up there. I do book reviews, so I'll post those on there also. And then if you want one-on-one coaching, go to thrivewithleo.com for one-on-one coaching with yours truly. I've somehow tapped into the market of corporate women that they're killing it at work, but they're filling their cup up 100%, and they're spilling meaning and purpose on the floor. So um, helping them get in touch with that.
Leo, thank you so much for, I know you're really busy and I appreciate you taking some time out to chat with me, and to chat with my listeners. And I'm really looking forward to continuing this conversation at some point because there's a lot that we put on the table, and I'd love to circle back and finish it up because it feels like there's a lot more that we can talk about, but I don't want to push it all into this one conversation.
I love it. I'm here for it. Let me know.
Yeah, absolutely, I will.